Amazing. We're going to talk about the Torah tells us you're not allowed to put a stumbling block in front of the blind. You might trip somebody up. So the Torah, in saying you're not allowed to put a stumbling block in front of the blind, the commentators understand that that's not just talking about physically. If there's somebody you can't see and you about physically tripping somebody up, there could also be spiritually tripping somebody up. So the Gemara gives an example that you're not allowed, if somebody is a Nazir, a Nazirite, so a Nazir, as you know, isn't allowed to drink wine. So if you invite your Nazirite friend to a wine testing evening, and then everyone is saying they've got 15 different wines and everyone's having a great time. So it's very hard for this guy, and then eventually he may physically fall, he spiritually fell because of what you. So the question is, if I, in good faith, want to help another Jew, but through helping them, I may cause them to miss out on the opportunity for a mitzvah. For example, if I have a Jewish friend who's not religious, and I offer them some bread, and I know that if I offer them bread, they're not going to wash beforehand, they're not going to say Birkat HaMazon afterwards, pizza. Oh, second time in one day, amazing. So would I be allowed to do that? Or is that putting a stumbling block in front of the blind? And the Talmud discusses that very case. The Talmud talks about if there's a case where a guy is hosting a meal, and there are people there are helping in preparing the meal, and I want to offer some of the people who are preparing the meal, I want to offer them food, I'm only allowed to offer them food if I know that they will wash and bench. So it seems from the Talmud that you're not allowed to give food to somebody unless you know they're going to make a blessing on it. You hear that? Now that's quite a strict ruling, right? So we looked at various interpretations of that ruling last week, and the various interpretations that we had of that ruling last week tried to limit it, I think, to some extent, and then by limiting that to some extent, to try to create scenarios in which we would be allowed to give somebody food. So all of the permissibilities, if that's the word, of this are all based on a teaching of Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah, I think, is from Italy.
I'm not sure. What's his name?
I can't remember. Something with a G. Do you have any cities in Italy beginning with a G?
Genova?
Yes! He's from there. Is that in Italy?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Oh, wow. Fantastic. So Rabbeinu Yonah, the Italian Rishon, has a brilliant idea. And he says, when I give this person food, I'm not giving him food as a, sort of because he's hungry. I'm giving it as a din of charity, of tzedakah. Charity isn't a good word to translate tzedakah, so I won't say charity. I'll stick to the word her. Yeah, exactly. That's why the charity is not a great translation of the word. But I give it to him as an act of tzedakah. So therefore, I don't know. The rationale is like this. I don't know. Maybe he'll make a blessing, or maybe he won't. Right? But I will certainly perform a mitzvah of giving tzedakah. So face over here. I know there's one guy will certainly perform a mitzvah because, the host will give him food, and the guy may or may not make a blessing. Well, I'm going to go with a certain mitzvah versus the possible aveira, and that's a rationale to allow us to give him the food. You follow? Now we looked how this rationale played out subsequently in a halacha. So the Shulchan Aruch, Rav Yosef Cairo, actually ruled strictly, saying you're not allowed to give this guy food, but he did quote our Italian friend, Rabbeinu Yonah from Genova. He does quote Rabbeinu Yonah, but he only puts that as a second position. However, subsequent halachic authorities commenting on this ruling of the Shulchan Aruch find various ways to be lenient to allow us to give food to this person. You follow? Now, one of the rationales was a very, very clever rationale. Or a few of them were quite clever. The reason not to give the person the food is because lifnei ver, you shouldn't put a stumbling block in front of the blind. But Rav Ovadia Yosef, for example, there are two positions. I'll just summarize them very quickly. Rav Ovadia Yosef said something very, very clever. He said like this: you have the guy, he's a guest in your home, and you've really got two options. One option is to give him food, and the other option is not to give him food. If you do give him food, he may not make a blessing, but he will understand that you're a very gracious host, and he will be grateful to you, and you as a religious Jew will be somebody that he will admire, right?
And also the mitzvah of hospitality.
Yeah, hospitality, exactly. All of these things, all of that. If you don't give him the food, then he may then have a bitter relationship with his, with Judaism, with religious people. So it might backfire. You follow? Meaning, I'm worried that he may loosen his connection to Judaism. But it's more likely for that to happen when I don't give him food than if I do give him food. You follow? And therefore, says Rav Ovadia Yosef, you are allowed to give him food, because by giving him the food, that is the option that is more likely to cause him to have a stronger relationship with Judaism, rather than not giving him the food may distance him. And if Neiver Lotitelim Mishon is all about distancing, so not giving him is more likely to trip him up. You follow? That's Rav Ovadia. Were you going to say something on that?
Yeah. Can you have in mind the person who's on your table while making the bracha?
Oh, yes, he talks about, excellent. Very, very good. That is the best thing to do, is when you make a blessing, to have him in mind. Now, that doesn't work for Birkat Hanenin. It works for Kiddush, for example, but generally, I can't say a Bori Priya Eitz, and then you eat an apple. But it does work for Bracha Achrona, meaning I can do Birkat Hamazon and have him in mind. Yeah.
Isn't it that, like, for example, if you say Bereperi ad, and we both have the intention that you're saying also for me, and I say Amen,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that may not be the case over here,
Okay.
because this guy.
He's not
Yeah. That's not what's going on here. But okay, so that's sort of one way of looking at it. Then we looked at the Sridei Eish. Sridei Eish has another sort of like a clever way of explaining how this can't be a problem of Lifnei Iver Lo Titenu Ekshol. According to Rabbeinu Yonah, as we explained, when I give the guy food, I'm giving him food in order to fulfill the mitzvah of tzedakah. I'm doing tzedakah. I can't be liable for lifnei iver lo titen mikshol within the mitzvah of giving tzedakah. You follow? Lifnei iver lo titen mikshol means I want to mislead somebody. You follow? Like give them bad information, confuse them, send them on the wrong direction. In giving them the food, I'm only trying to help them. You follow? I'm fulfilling the mitzvah of tzedakah. So it can't be that my mitzvah of tzedakah is an act of lifnei iver lo titen mikshol. You follow? Okay, those were that's really where we got last week. So we had the Talmud, we had this beautiful chidush of Rabbeinu Yonah, who wanted to explain this mitzvah of tzedakah. Then we saw it's not quoted in the Shulchan Aruch. I mean, it's not presented as the main opinion in the Shulchan Aruch, but then we saw subsequent halachic authorities did use this Rabbeinu Yonah in order to allow us to give food. And indeed, I would humbly suggest that nowadays the position certainly is that we do give food. You know, somebody comes to our home and they're not religious, we certainly do give them food. And if we can make a bracha and they can listen to it, then that's great. And if not, then it's an act of tzedakah. It would not be considered a problem of lifnei iver lo titen mikshol. Is that clear with everybody? That's really where we got up to last week. This week, we want to go to some new cases. Okay. So the bottom page number 2, there's a question that was asked to Rav Moshe Feinstein. We're going to look at 3 new cases today. if we spend the whole of last week discussing giving somebody who's not religious, giving them food, we're going to look at 3 cases that are all based on that ruling, but in totally different situations. So, the first question was asked to Rav Moshe Feinstein. The question asked to Rav Moshe Feinstein is, are you allowed to call someone up to the Torah if they are not they're not Torah observant? What might be the problem with calling somebody up if they're not Torah observant? Does anyone know? Yes. Asher bachar bani mikol ha'amim, who chose us from all of the nations, v'natan lanu et Torato, and you gave us your Torah. Baruch atah Hashem, blessed are you Hashem, who gives us the Torah, noten Torah. Let's say a heretic comes to shul. You call him up and he makes a bracha levatala. He'd make the blessing. He doesn't mean it. So by calling up this person, let's say a heretic's grandson has a bar mitzvah. So you want to call up this chap for his grandson's bar mitzvah as respect for the grandfather. But it's this guy will say a blessing that's not, he doesn't believe it. So it will be, I'm causing him to make a bracha levatala. Would we be allowed to call this guy up to the Torah? You hear the question? Matem chashum. Here we haven't got this whole stakar little business.
It depends on I think it's a person by person basis. What do you mean? Where do you draw the line? Because some people say for instance, my dad was a Reformed Jew. He doesn't really understand the whole concept of the Torah Judaism is a real thing and was given to Hashem, but he's not he's not a heretic. He's not against it. He just doesn't he hasn't really got it yet. He doesn't. So.
I hear, but there could be a person that you would think would not be eligible.
Sure, yeah, but of course.
Yeah, okay.
There's a certain line you have to draw, of course.
Okay, there is a line.
There is a line, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, we also have forbidden to humiliate people in public.
Oh, very good.
Because of that, if there's as effect that an individual who is an Amearetz, not a Rasha,
Right.
and he has the opportunity to be called for an Aliyah Torah, then with this message we can integrate him more, I guess.
And therefore you should call him up.
Yeah.
So you don't have a line. Are you arguing? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but you're arguing perhaps with Zachariah, because you're saying that if is there anybody that you would say they shouldn't be called up to the Torah?
No, the opposite way, that they should be called. If
That's
we
very,
know
very
that
holy.
there's as effect that this person is doing teshuvah, because we know that
Such a rebbe, you're such a rebbe.
You know that we cannot judge people if there's no 2 witnesses.
Right.
So if I saw someone transgressing, even though I'm melacha in Shabbat, I'm not sure enough if this person did repentance before sleeping.
Right.
There's an halacha regarding this matter. So if there's as effect that I'm not sure if this person is on his journey to make the teshuvah.
Oh, shalom aleichem. How are you doing?
Because of that.
Oh, so you're saying you could?
Yes.
He might be on the journey. He might be on his way to Machon Meir. Excellent. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I would support his statement.
Oh, very nice.
I was thinking that if you call him a Torah Aliyah, maybe it will ignite his spark.
Oh, you are such a rebbe. Do you hear that? Isn't that good? Isn't he good? He said a pearl.
Let's say he's never been in a Torah Aliyah, and then you call him in a Torah Aliyah, and maybe that will ignite his sleeping Jewish soul. And
you're
bring
such
him
a
back
rebbe.
to the tshuva and learn a lot. And also, it says that mitzvah is connected to another mitzvah.
Excellent.
So
That's very, very good.
I was thinking that if he was able to call in Torah Aliyah, maybe he would think that, oh, what did I read? Maybe I wanted to translate the reading and then
Oh my gosh, you are such a rebbe. I'll just tell you something in Chassidut. There's different ways of looking at people. But what you said was a very, very deep Chassidish idea. Let's say the deep Chassidish idea is like this, that every Jew has a pintel yid. Do you know what a pintel yid is? What's a pintel yid?
Spark?
An inner Jewish.
Yes,
Inner Jew?
like a spark, exactly. Now the reason why they're not connected is not because they have to discover something from outside. It's their inside. Just need to uncover it. You follow? And lots of opportunities we have to uncover it. You follow? You know this could uncover it. And it could be that this being called up to the Torah will like pull away the curtain, and then the Pintel Yid will shine. And therefore we're giving this guy an opportunity to reveal what was there all the time.
Maybe he understands the honor he's getting, so he's appreciating.
Oh, that's brilliant. I just want to give you an analogy that strengthens what you're saying from my physics teacher when I was in high school. We had a physics teacher in high school. You might not even get this. Like, you're all far too young. In the olden days, there was something called a radio. Do you know what a radio is? So on a radio, we used to, like before anything like this, you'd plug in a radio and then you'd like put up this aerial, an antenna, and then you like shake it around a bit. It was like, and then suddenly you got the right angle, and then you could hear the news. You don't even know what I'm talking about. Nothing to do with the internet. With a dial, what?
You put tinfoil on
Oh, good, yeah, very good.
Why wouldn't the Wi-Fi just connect to them?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, so hear that. So this was when I was a little boy. That's how we listened to the radio. It's not that long ago. It's like a few years. Anyway, but for you people, it's like ancient history. Anyway, so listen to this. Sometimes you had a radio set that was you spend like £50 on a radio, just like this, like turn it on, little kick, and then like, hello, this is BBC News, beautiful, and then you get another like schmuttery little one, like for £2.50, and like have to bang it and shake it around, and then like a lot of background noise, and then eventually like through the crackling you could just about hear the news. You hear that? Mm-hmm. Different types of radios. So he used to say this. Our physics teacher used to say it's the Pintel Yid of everybody. There's some people that then shama, so they pick up the signal every day because they're like they've got a great set. So then every day God is talking to all of us. You know, Rav Cook talks about in his introduction to his Perush on the Siddur, says that a Jewish soul is praying all day long. It's a beautiful analogy. It's a bit like, going analogy in an analogy, but it's such a beautiful idea. I just want to explain what it means. You know, sometimes you're listening to your earphones and then like a bus goes past. You understand? So then you can't hear it, but it's still going on. You just can't hear it because the bus is there. But it was going on all along. So prayer is basically going into a quiet room. So I can hear what was being pumped into my ears all along. It's just there's no background noise anymore. Isn't that a beautiful idea? But my neshama is mamash davening every second. And davening, meaning my experience of tefillah in a Bet Knesset, is all about getting rid of the background noise. You follow?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't understand this last time.
You know, sometimes, do you ever go on a bus?
Yeah.
Or next to a bus?
Yeah.
And you're listening to something on your headset?
And you don't mind about the bus?
No. You can't hear and then like a truck goes past. You're like listening to something, a lecture, and then a bus like, and then I can't hear what's going on.
Sure.
Right? But he's still talking. I just can't hear him anymore. You follow? But he's talking the whole way through.
Right.
So your neshama right this minute is talking, praying to the one above. And yours, in fact all of ours, is all praying this second to the one above. But I don't feel like I'm praying because there's so much background noise. And what prayer is just like going into a quiet room, closing the doors, closing the windows. And then I can hear what was in my earphones the whole time. Does that make sense? You follow? Okay. So he would say, our teacher's name was Nachum Ordman, said that on the radio there's different types of signals. You follow? But God's sending the signals to everybody all the time. But there's some people that have got great radio, so they pick up the noise the whole time. But there are others, the radio set isn't quite as good, so it only picks up the signal like Rosh Hashanah. And some of them only pick it up on Yom Kippur, and some of them only pick it up at Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur, like the end of Yom Kippur. But it's going on the whole time, but it depends what set you have. You follow? Now what you're saying is that like getting called up is like an upgrade. Meaning it's going on the whole time. The sound is going there the whole time, but my set can't hear it. But every time I do a mitzvah, I upgrade the set so then I can pick up more signals. You follow? So who knows what the impact of being called up to the Torah could have on this soul? You follow? And that's why you are arguing, with Zechariah, because you're saying never let somebody miss out on that opportunity.
No.
You hear that? Right? Excellent. Thank you, Yosef. Any other comments?
I was saying
Ah.
Judgment is a word.
like I don't know, if it's a suffix that he's doing tshuva, you let him go up. But if it's just someone's like
What about
known like
judgment is
Yid for Yashka, then and he's like a proselytizer around town. And it's like, okay, do you invite him up? No, I don't think so. Like,
I know. Yeah. The truth. Yeah.
there's got to be some like it's not all inclusive.
So the truth is, there was a guy in London a few years ago, and it was before I was born. When I say a few years ago, he was a very, very learned Jew, but he wrote a book that I think was a little bit controversial, and it sort of questioned whether God gave us a Torah from heaven. So even though he came up with a very religious background, he sort of left sort of traditional Jewish thought, and he was in a shul, and they didn't call him up. And it was exactly because of what you said. This was a heretic who's published books that go against like our relationship with Torah. And therefore to call this person up who's written books against the idea of Asher Bachar Banu Kol Amim V'Natan Lanu Et Torato, so then that wouldn't work. You follow? But yes.
Sorry. I think that if you don't let him after let's say it is like a non-religious Jew that comes by car to shul every Shabbat.
Oh, we're coming to him in a minute.
Okay, good.
We'll come to him in a minute. We'll come to the driving in a second.
Yeah.
Let me just finish this question over here. I think that the truth is both are very, very valid positions. Your position about the Pintele Yid, and that is, who knows what incredible power being called up to Torah could wake up in a Jewish soul. Don't let them miss that out. That's what you're saying. And then you're also saying, which is also true, like there's a guy that's just written book after book about, this is not what I believe. So why get him to say these brachot? You hear? So Rav Moshe Feinstein dealt with this question, and he really went on both sides. But in order to save time, I'm going to read the summary of what he says at the end. Well, maybe I'll just read bits of it. Here, if you have a look at it, at the bottom of page 2, Im yesh ma'aleh b'ma she'apikoros yivarech, im tzarich lomar lo levarech. Would you be allowed to call up a heretic to read from the Torah? Now, it's part of a long answer. I'm going to read the first line of the second paragraph, and then I'm going to jump to the bottom. He says, Mikol makom, nevertheless, mistaber shemutar lo shivarech. Says Rav Moshe Feinstein, thinks the person should be allowed to make a blessing. Tahar efshar sheyaseh adate didei shemitzaveu levarech laShem yitbarach. Because maybe he is doing it authentically. Basically, his point is, I only know what he felt until he got called up to the Torah. You know, there are people, yesh koneh olamo b'sha'a achat. There are people who, in an instant, can suddenly understand things that they never understood before, and by not calling him up, we are preventing him from the possibility of doing teshuvah. It is true that the individual that wrote all those books and said these terrible things about our relationship with Torah and concerning the text of the Torah, the person who wrote those books, so he's a heretic. But this guy here is 5 minutes later. Do you know what a Jew can achieve in 5 minutes? And therefore, we will call him up. You follow? Because I only know what he thought beforehand. You follow? It's a bit like Shlomo. I'll just very briefly. Never thought this would connect together. Shlomo Karlebach has got a beautiful story about two friends. He was once in a shul, and they were two kids, and they were fighting. Can you imagine? You probably don't understand because you're all tzaddikim. But sometimes they're like, people don't always get on with each other. Two little kids, they were fighting with each other in shul. Like that, mamash smashing each other in.
Oh, what age? Like how old?
No, like five.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not like 25. Yeah, 5-year-olds smashing each other in. And Shlomo popped out after the Kedusha for a second and sees these two kids schmeicing each other outside shul. Goes back to daven for 10 minutes. And then 10 minutes later, at the end of davening, he leaves shul. It's like the closest friends in the world. Like nothing happened. So kids get up. You know what I mean? Like sometimes never underestimate what you could do in 5 minutes. You follow? And then that's what he understood. So that's the same rationale of what Rav Moshe Feinstein says. I only know what this guy thought when he published the book a year ago, a day ago, even this morning. But that second when he's standing, holding the Torah, saying a bracha, I've no idea what holy thoughts he might be having. And therefore, he says, he sides with Yosef, but for a different reason, because you never know what he might be, even if he was an Apikoros previously. There's no way of knowing that that's what he is now. I'm going to read it inside. It's underlined. V'lachein, גם בזה ששמע לו ויברך, אפשר שיעשה על דעתו ויברך, כמו שאומר לו, משום שהרהר אז בתשובה. Maybe that second was his moment of fixing everything. You follow? Maybe he did tshuva in that moment. ואף שיראו אחר ימים, ואף רק אחר שעה מועטת, שעדיין הוא כופר, אפשר שחזר לסורו. Let's say, this is so holy. Let's say he writes a heretical book, right? And then we're calling out Torah. Maybe he fixed everything. So we're calling up to the Torah, and then literally he comes down, and then the next day publishes a heretical. What? Do you know what I mean? I blew it. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, it didn't work. So even in that situation, do you know what Rav Moshe Feinstein said? No, maybe he was not so great, and then he had a moment of enlightenment, and then he went back again. But I can never know what he was thinking about that moment when he said that bracha. You follow? Because I can never know what he was saying when he said that bracha. Therefore, he should always get called up. Isn't that powerful? That is such a limud zechut. You know what I mean? Like limud, he's really like searching for a way to say yes. You hear that? I'm just going to finish what he says. ולכן צריך שיאמר לו שיברך שכולמה ואפשר שיברך לשמיים באותה שעה. Okay. Now, just by the by, so, this was written by Rav Moshe Feinstein. Rav Moshe Feinstein lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan until the 1980s, which was not like 60s, 70s, 80s. Wasn't like the most. It's not like Meir Sha'arim. You know what I mean? Quite an open environment. Is that right? Or maybe it is not Meir Sha'arim.
Not Meir Sha'arim. It's, I don't know. Just go walk around here in Jerusalem. Maybe like this area, like here by Hard No Fish.
Okay.
Kind of maybe.
Yeah, but he lived in Manhattan. Manhattan's such a crazy little town. Do you know what I mean? Like, he lived in the world. He's actually, in his writings, not in this context, in other contexts, he's quite against sort of cooperation with Reform Jews, for example. But here you can have somebody who may be part of a non-Orthodox community, a heretic. I mean, not that everybody is. Most of them are not aware. But assuming somebody who had a religious education rejected it, I would be allowed to call this person up, even if both before they got called up and after they called up to the Torah, they held heretical views, because maybe that minute they said the bracha was a minute of inspiration. Isn't that amazing? That's Rav Moshe Feinstein. Okay. Any comments, questions on number one? We got one of three.
This is especially for me, because this is why...
Simcha!
Yes, no, because this is what most of my family, because they all, like, it's an Orthodox religion, but what it is, like, it's always been an outreach. They get a lot of people, like, they know, like, who don't observe, like, they'll drive to shul, like, they don't observe, and they, like, invite people for Shabbases. They can't really have services for Shabbos, but, like, on Yom, like, for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, like, they always have there. And, like, the past year or two since I've been observing, like, I've been help work with them to get more people in to go.
Amazing. It's a really important thing. Amazing. So I think it's Rav Moshe Feinstein that opened the way to allow us to make sure we do that. They want to help people have these opportunities. Mamash, like what you were saying earlier, we have no idea, like the power of every single mitzvah we do. You know what I mean? Got no. If we understood, we would not do otherwise. Okay, that was question number 1. Question number 2, also to Rav Moshe Feinstein. Question number 2, he was asked, I'll read it to you. Are you allowed to invite people to come to your synagogue on Shabbat if you know that they are going to come by car? Now, I'll just tell you two interesting things about this. No, okay. I'll tell you one interesting thing, and that is when I was a little boy, we went to a shul that sounds quite similar to the shul that Simcha is describing, where the majority of the members of the shul that I went to were not Shabbat observant. So on a regular morning, there were about 15 to 20 people in the shul, and they were all, I would say pretty much Shomrei Shabbat. And then on a regular Shabbat, you might get about 200, 300 people. Of the 200 to 300 people that would come on a regular Shabbat, maybe 1/3, 100 of them, of the 300 were religious. And then on a Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you might get 1,000 people there, where only a very small minority of the people there were Torah observant.
What if I was even like that off? If we get 20 people, that's a miracle for us.
That is amazing. And I'm sure you do, and that probably is a miracle.
Manhattan?
No, New Jersey. No, I'm right outside of Lakewood area, so most people there are already observant.
Lakewood's quite a religious neighborhood as far as I've heard.
I'm right outside of it.
Oh, it's the outside
All of them
bit.
are in Lakewood.
And you get a lot. Some of
Have you
them.
been to Lakewood yet?
No.
Okay. All in good time.
Yeah, no, we get a lot for the Elah. We almost didn't make a million already. For the Elah.
Amazing. Okay, so on this question of are you allowed to drive a car? So I just want to add, so in our little shul, people, out of respect for the synagogue, it's very sweet of them, people wouldn't park outside the shul. They park around the corner. Unfortunately, in our shul, the rabbi lived around the corner. So the result was everybody would park outside his house, which was very unfortunate for him and for them, and really for everybody there. Okay, Matem Choshvim. So would I be allowed to invite somebody, knowing that by inviting them, so you could say they're going to drive anyway. So instead of driving to the beach, drive to shul. I'm not stopping them from drive. You understand? So would I be allowed to invite, or for a Shabbat meal, can I invite somebody? As a religious Jew, if I have cousins in Tel Aviv, could I invite my cousins from Tel Aviv to come for Friday night Sudat Shabbat, knowing that means I have to drive there and back? Atem Shomim? Mata, is that a din of Lifnei Iver? Can we use that svara that we used earlier? It can't be Lifnei Iver if I'm trying to do a mitzvah. Or, on the other hand, here, it's slightly different, because there is like not doing a mitzvah, not saying a bracha. But here, it's causing them to do an avera. You hear? Matem Choshvim? Yeshaya, what a joy that you're here.
We have experienced this in our family.
Oh no.
Well, we remember what we used to do is to ask him, you want to come? Maybe come, before Shabbos, and we say maybe come before this time, so it's before Shabbos. And if you want, you can sleep and you can do this tomorrow, There's something to propose at least, If he says no, we cannot. Of course, you cannot force him. And another thing that maybe I thought, but I'm not sure. It is maybe the fact that he's coming and he's listening to the Kiddush, otherwise he wouldn't listen to. Is a Torah the right mitzvah and driving a rabbinical?
Clever.
Maybe, but that's not
clever. But I don't think that normally doesn't work, because it's called a mitzvah haba ba'avera. So I'm not allowed to. If I have to do an avera in order to do a mitzvah, I'm not allowed to do the mitzvah, even if the avera is a mitzvah avera de rabbanan, meaning I can't transgress even a rabbinic law in order to. You follow what I'm saying? Matem choshvim. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah.
Oh, Zechariah.
I think you could actually argue the opposite. That the people that don't observe Shabbat need to be the ones that are invited for dinner to share Shabbat with them. Because the religious people are going to observe Shabbat. They're going to make kiddush. They're going to have Sudat mitzvah. But the people that don't observe Shabbat that might drive to your house. It's like, well, those are the people that you're going to spread Shabbat with, and might create way more of a change in Am Yisrael as a whole. Like they might fall in love with having it. Maybe they go home and maybe say, okay, maybe I'm not gonna observe all the rules, but I want to have a Suda mitzvah and just
Now that I should dafka invite those chevra.
Right, yeah.
That's very good. I like that. Yeah, those are people that. Oh, I think you're so right. I feel Shabbat. I know that's not your point, but Shabbat is such a gift. It's such a gift.
I was working at a hostel in Tveria, and we made a Shabbat dinner. We had a bunch of religious people there for one weekend, and so we made a Shabbat dinner, and these secular people were like, "What's going on? What holiday is this?" And they were like, and then we're like, "Oh, Shabbat." And they're like, "Oh, wow."
That's amazing.
They didn't realize they thought it was like something special, maybe like once a year we do something like this, and I was like, no, it's every week, three times.
That's amazing. Did they join then? Did they?
Yeah, I think there was definitely some people who stuck around. They were curious what's going on.
Oh, that's such an amazing end to the story. Thank you. You just came to be here just for that Shabbat in Tiberias.
Oh.
I think.
Okay, back to Florida. See ya.
No. That's not the bit. That's not part 2 of the story. Were you going to add something, Amram?
No, I wasn't.
Is everything clear? Do you have Were you going to add something?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, everything clear? Okay, so it's a yes.
There might be a slight difference in, asking somebody in a town where you would walk a similar distance to go to somebody's house on Shabbat versus asking somebody out of town. Where, there's situations where it kind of require.
Yeah, you mean if you could walk.
Yeah.
So then you can invite like a 20-minute walk, and if they invited me, I would walk. Mm-hmm. Then that's probably then it's their choice to drive.
Yeah. For me, for shops is where I normally go. They normally invite a family over with them, and normally during shops they bike there. They're not really observant, but they will bike there to go for the meals. In which that's what a lot of same people I did work that's what a lot of them do. They want to invite these people to get us what we said before they observe one Shabbos, they'll start doing more Shabbos then. Yeah, that they enjoy it.
So they would bike they would usually drive during the week, but on Shabbos they would bike.
Yeah.
Bike. It seems like that's a progression. That's a progression.
That's a very, very sweet story. It's a shame. It's a sad story, but it's sweet.
So I said it's at least an hour bike from them also.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
The problem with bikes is that they might break on the way, and you fix
Yeah.
So that's the issue with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, can you not drive your bike on Shabbat because of that? Because
other issues also.
Yeah, it's not a melacha. Riding a bike in itself does not transgress any melacha.
No.
But we don't ride bikes on Shabbat.
Neither carrying.
What do you mean?
Well, you're not gonna.
I was I don't know. Riding is carrying the bike.
It might be a problem outside if you go outside the Eruv. But I'm not sure if I don't think you're carrying it. No, but not. Forget the Eruv bit.
Even if there is an Eruv, you still wouldn't.
Of course.
So a lot
of they sell. You shouldn't exercise during Shabbos. Some people also. It's kind of the same issue.
Biking, when you bike to a place that's not exercise, it's just a mode of getting there.
Yeah, so there is
Walking
a concept.
Isn't exercise either.
There's a concept. The truth is, it's one of the hardest concepts to explain in Shabbat, and it's not our topic, but very briefly, there's a concept of uvdin dechol. Uvdin dechol means there are certain activities that are weekday activities. So jogging and biking are 2 examples there. Biking is slightly more complicated because there's also about fixing bikes and stuff. It might lead to do other stuff as well. But let's say running or let's say sometimes a scooter. A scooter isn't quite as complicated as a bike. But people don't go on a scooter right? Now, I might say with a bike, it does break once in a while, so that's a legitimate concern. But what can go wrong with the scooter? But we don't use scooters on Shabbat. So a scooter and writing, there is a halachic principle of uvdin dechol, and that is there are certain activities that are appropriate on Shabbat and certain activities that are not appropriate on Shabbat. It's very hard to explain what's appropriate and what is not appropriate. In fact, I think out of all of the laws of Shabbat, it's probably one of the most difficult things to explain is what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And the only way to learn it is to spend Shabbat in a religious environment, and then you pick up the sense of what's appropriate, what is not appropriate. But if we truly believe, as we do, that Shabbat is a taste of the world to come, so then all of the activities that I do on Shabbat have to be part of that experience of a taste of the world to come. So in the world to come, I'm not going to be going for jogs. That's not going to be, and also I'm not going to be on my scooter. There's a wide variety of examples. There are even people that have a toothbrush for the week and a toothbrush for Shabbat. There's people who have a toothbrush for Shabbat for two reasons. Sometimes, some people, there are halachic problems with a regular toothbrush, so they have a Shabbat toothbrush. But even according to those people who hold that you're allowed to brush your teeth, they too have a different toothbrush for Shabbat. Just like people sometimes change, all of their clothes. Sometimes people have glasses. If you wear glasses, they have glasses they wear on Shabbat, and glasses.
Better looking.
Yeah, exactly. All that is all part of this uvdin dechol. I'm creating a different atmosphere on Shabbat, and there are certain activities that are just not appropriate on Shabbat. You follow? Now it makes it much more flexible.
Can you go over again regarding the glasses? Let's say that I don't use glasses on regular days, but I have some issues regarding my sight. So if I decide to use it on Shabbat, it's sure.
No, fine. It's absolutely fine. I'm saying I was only giving an example that some people go to such an extent. There are some people that even have glasses that they only wear on Shabbat. Because the Shabbat day is different to the rest of the week. There's some people, they walk, there's a way I walk on Shabbat, which is different to the way that I walk during the week. There's a way I speak on Shabbat, which is different to the way I speak during the week. It's all part of the same rubric. You follow?
Yeah, I just got confused because I read a few years ago regarding an halacha about watches.
So watch is a bit complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mix that thing with the glasses.
Oh, no. So watches is a different discussion. We won't go into the watches discussion now. Okay. Yeah, watches is lovely. Let's just read Rav Moshe Feinstein. Rav Moshe Feinstein, back to our question of, am I allowed to drive? Okay, so he says like this. Are you ready? Here. I'm going to go to the second paragraph. Isur lifnei ver, the prohibition of putting a stumbling block in front of the blind, yesh, exists, af be'inam rechokim kol kach yadu she'inatzlu lelech b'raglan v'yis'u b'machines. Machines is a car. Aval isur mesit leka she'inam rechokim. ואם אינה בלשון הזמנה, אלא סתם הודעה שעושים מניין ונותנים פרסים להביאם להתפלל, והכוונה בעצם הוא רק לקרובים, אבל ידוע שיבואו גם רחוקים, מסתבר שאין בזה דין מסית, ובדין בפני עיוור יש להסתפק. His answer is a very, very clever answer. It's a difference between announcing that there's going to be davening this week and inviting somebody to come. So let's say this coming Shabbat in our Bet Knesset, we have a big event. There's going to be a huge, prayer to come along to the shul, right? If I put the sign up in shul and I know that there are families that are going to see the sign in shul, that's fine. Because they saw the sign and they decided to drive. You follow? But if I invite somebody, then I need to do what your parents do. If I invite somebody, you have to say, do you want to come before Shabbat? And you can stay over at Yeshaya's house.
Offer the possibility of
yeah.
of course, not breaking Shabbat.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's coming, and you're 100% sure it's going to break Shabbat.
Exactly,
And it's your fault
exactly.
also, and you also
So
say-
the problem is in inviting. You follow? I'm allowed to inform people that it's taking place. If you inform them it's taking place, then you don't need to organise sleeping arrangements for everybody. But if you're inviting someone to come, you have to offer them a place to sleep. And if you don't, then that is a din of lifnei iver. Even though I'm doing a mitzvah, I'm inviting them, and Shabbos is amazing. I just want them to enjoy a Shabbat in our home. Nevertheless, it's a problem unless you make other arrangements. Is that clear to everybody? Okay, now let's do the last case. The last case is very, very interesting. I want to tell you, it's really, really, my daughter has something similar to this. My daughter, Shira, is a trainee nurse, and she works in a hospital here in Jerusalem, and the hospitals work 7 days a week. And everybody has to take their shifts, right? Now, let's say one of her shifts falls out on a Friday night. And one of her non-religious friends says to her, you know what, Friday night, that's Friday night. It's for you, it's a big deal. For me, it's not such a big deal. If I'm not in the hospital, I'm going to be doing other... it's not like I'm going to be sitting down at a Friday night meal, but your Friday night meal is a big deal for you. Can this friend, this other nurse, say to her, we'll switch shifts. I'll take your Friday night shift, but it's not going to make any difference to my life because I don't do anything on Friday nights anyway. And then you'll do my Wednesday night shift, and then you can be at home for Shabbat. Would you be allowed to do that? You hear the question?
I don't think so.
Huh? I know, that is true. Good point. Matem Choshvim?
No.
Really?
She's Jewish too.
Yishai, you're so strict. Matem Choshvim, you think you can? Oh, wow. You're so lenient. Yeah, go on. What?
I'm pretty positive you can't with that.
Wait. I just want to make a...
Well, hold on.
Wait. Not all of that.
Can you say can't? In English, we say can and can't. But
You say can and can't?
Yeah, good, exactly.
Really? You changed the vowel?
Exactly, absolutely. And then I can understand what you're saying. But here, both options sound like exactly the same here. So what are you saying? You say you can or you can't?
Not.
You cannot. You can't. And you're saying, and Eov, you're saying you can.
You can, right?
So we got over here can't, can. Is that right?
I'm team can.
Team can. Anyone else?
Can't.
Oh, thank you so much. Mata Choshev?
I think you can.
Can. Oh, can's sort of winning here. A little bit.
I would say it's way
Because?
better to switch.
Because?
Because now the non-religious person is going to be doing Koch Nefesh.
For sure.
Oh, you're good. That's amazing.
This is the one that
That
we're
is so good.
we're talking about.
Very good.
We wanted to vote as well in Sakari, but
Zachariah, that is brilliant.
What did he say?
Go on.
Well, the religious person is going to go home and observe all the mitzvah Shabbat, and the non-religious person is going to be exempt because of Koch Nefesh. They're working in a hospital. They're saving lives.
Yeah, but in this way, you're 100% sure that this person, you're making this person in the condition of not for sure being able to have Shabbat. Let's say this.
But you know they're not observant.
Because
So
she
But
has
she might
like
start,
she's serving Tikkun Nefesh. It's like self-sacrifice.
You know what? I only said that you can't because I think it was I think I read it before saying that it's talking with certain people, they rather have an overshop, they rather have an observant Jew treat them at a hospital instead of a non-religious.
Oh my gosh, that's so holy.
Yeah.
All these answers are you're just such neshamot Torot. So the truth is, the question that was asked was to Rabbi Herzog, Rav Yitzhak Herzog. Rav Yitzhak Herzog was the first chief rabbi of Israel. And the question that he was asked was slightly different. It wasn't nurses, it was soldiers on a base, but it's the same idea. Every week some soldiers can go home, and so the religious soldiers, the non-religious soldier says, we'll do our God, but it's also Pikuach Nefesh. Let us do the Shabbat guard duty. Either way, we're not going to be observing Shabbat, and you go home and then you can celebrate Shabbat. You hear that? And I'm afraid to say, and let's read this inside now together, sweet, wonderful people, that the Rav Herzog follows the position of Simchala. I would say Simcha follows the position of Rav Herzog. So listen to this. This is what he says. Asur, it is forbidden for a Chayal Yehudi Dati, a religious soldier, lahaskim, to accept, levakashat Chayal Yehudi lo Dati, to accept a non-religious proposal, lemale tafkidim b'mkomo b'Shabbat. You're not allowed to, a religious Jew is not allowed to accept a non-religious Jew saying, I will take over your roles on Shabbat so that you can do on after Shabbat, even though your rationale is absolutely brilliant and yours. Okay, why? Why? Lifnei ver b'dekai betray avrei denara. Dazur the Musachal in 1 second. Ikasher kanu shezeh chayal adati muchrachu al pi atzav atzvai lavod b'Shabbat ve'en alav chet. So he says, a person, it sort of links a little bit to what you were saying. If I am a religious Jew and I'm told I need to serve in the army on Shabbat, or if I'm a nurse and I'm told I've duty service on Shabbat, when I, the religious person, do my duty, I'm not doing anything wrong. It connects, meaning the original person, when I'm scheduled to do it, so that is my Shabbat for that week. There's no Shabbat meal, but my fulfillment of Shabbat that week has been decided from above, will be in the hospital or on the army base. You follow? However, Ashenia Machlifo, however, the guy that switches with him, he doesn't need to break Shabbat, meaning as soon when the shifts come out on a Friday, or whenever it comes out, and the religious Jew gets scheduled to serve on Shabbat, so his fulfillment of Shabbat is to be on the base that Shabbat. Do you follow? He's not breaking Shabbat, he's keeping Shabbat to be on the base. You follow? But the other guy, whose name isn't on the list, so whether he does it or not, but his Shabbat is by, fulfilling a more traditional Shabbat. You follow? But once the guy who is expected to have a regular Shabbat volunteers to have that, to be on the base, that you're not allowed to do. You hear the difference? I think it's a brilliant answer, but it's based on your rationale that Zachariah is trying hard to take apart. I'm just going to continue reading it. Ella, she'ena Shabbat nechshevet beinav, ומרצונו הטוב רוצה להחליף את הדתי, והנה אפילו אם היה שולחו בפירוש לחלל שבת בשבילו, לא היה המשלח חייב ממש על המלאכה שאין שליח לדבר עבירה. אבל אסור לשלוח יהודי. You're not allowed to send a Jew אפילו לעשות מלאכה בשביל יהודי בשבת. And this is really it, I, as a religious Jew, am not allowed to send a non-religious Jew to do melacha on Shabbat. You follow? That the premise of the argument is that the religious Jew on the base or the religious Jew on the hospital is keeping Shabbat. You follow? And then for him to send somebody else to break Shabbat would be sending them to break Shabbat on my behalf on Shabbat. You follow? I've got the Pator, but he doesn't have the Pator. So I know it looks unfair because he needs the Pator, not me. But Tachlis, I'm the one with the Pator, and a Pator is non. What's the word? Non. You can't change it. Transferable.
Yeah.
Your words are excellent. Thank you. Yes.
So it seems like even if what you've been assigned for wasn't like Pikuach Nefesh or something that you were keeping Shabbat, it still doesn't seem like you could accept to put another Jew in your place.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not my meaning. I'm keeping Shabbat. when the shifts come out, decided by whatever algorithm, it normally is an algorithm, because but once it's decided that it's my turn, so that as a religious Jew, I have to believe that is my Shmirat Shabbat for the week.
What if it's decided by a commanding officer who's on Shabbat, who's off Shabbat?
Okay, but still,
So you could use the say that he couldn't decide.
But once my name, once I've been given that Shmetzet, once I've been given that slot, so then it then becomes my Shmirat Shabbat. You follow? And I haven't got the ability to then, mean it as a private or whatever. My I'm not in the position to give it to somebody else, because once it's been given to me, that's fine. That's going to be my Shabbat. That's where God wants me to be on this Shabbat. You've sort of.
What if it was something desecrating Shabbat that you could get out of yourself without putting somebody in your place? It's like the fact that you're accepting.
Then that's something else.
Yeah, it's. It seems like no matter what the assignment is, what type of scenario, if you're accepting somebody else to desecrate Shabbat, this is the. Yeah.
It's only in a situation where desecration of Shabbat. But desecration of Shabbat's not the right word, because if I'm in the army, or if I'm in a hospital, then like you were saying, it's pikuach nefesh. It's not desecration of Shabbat, but it's observance of Shabbat through not keeping Shabbat, which is.
Frame it the other way though. What if you say that this guy? Okay, you have the same two soldiers. The one who's religious, who's scheduled to stay, and the one who's not religious, so just scheduled to go home. One who's not religious says, "Hey, I'm gonna go home and break Shabbat while you're doing this. If you want, I can stay here, and then neither of us will break Shabbat." It's like I don't understand how.
No, because once my name's on, I'm not breaking Shabbat anymore.
How's that I just don't understand where this is like derived from. Like once your name is written on a list, you can't switch your position. Surely from the officer, there's the stipulation that you're allowed to switch shifts. If that's what you can do in the army, then that's written in with the rules.
So let me read his words. No, once he says over here, I'll explain this what he says over here. Here, this on the second line, this religious soldier has to break Shabbat al piyat tzav hatzvai, which is he's being commanded by his officer to transgress Shabbat, or by the head nurse, they've been scheduled to work on Shabbat. You find? You get that? Ve'ein alav chet. Now, once I've been allocated through a tzav tzvai, which means that that's it's been decided by whoever decides the shifts, has decided that I'm on for Shabbat, so that becomes my Shmirat Shabbat for this week. You follow? Does that make sense to you?
So is this? I'm just looking at the question. Is this only when the person requests that the non-religious person take his place? But what if it was the opposite? What if the other person? It sound, from what, like your translation, it sounded like the other person wanted to stay. The non-religious person wanted to stay.
Even if the other guy offers. Because, it's a funny situation. But it's like, I wasn't in the army myself. But I imagine, that once a month, sort of the schedule is put on the notice board. And that schedule for Shmirot is a tzav tzvai, right? So let's say my name, I look on the list and I see that my name has been put on Shabbat. So I have, once my name's on that list, I have no chiyuv of shmirat, that particular Shabbat. If I need to do things that would transgress Shabbat, I'm allowed to do them because it's pikuach nefesh. But I wouldn't be allowed in my position to put somebody else in that list, even though people might switch around names the whole time. Meaning, once the system, and I know this, I had to think about this more. But once the system has put me there as working on Shabbat, so that becomes my Shmirat Shabbat, and I can't transfer that Shmirat Shabbat to somebody else.
So you're not allowed to put someone who's Shemer Shabbat in Shabbos for The service.
No, you are.
Even if I'm Shomer Shabbat, of course.
Yeah.
If I am Mefaked, yeah.
Ken.
And I'm Shomer Shabbat.
Yeah.
And I put a Shomer Shabbat soldier for Shabbat service in the army.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to do this.
You are allowed to.
Why?
Because that's your. I'm the mefaked, so I decide who does what. It's about switching.
But you decide. It's not that you're obligated to say one name.
It's about the switching. I think I do understand it, that once I've been allocated something, so then that becomes my shmirat Shabbat, because I then become within the category of pikuach nefesh. But that's not a transferable situation. You follow? Because I can't transfer pikuach nefesh. Once I've become allocated, this is my job, then I can't transfer that to somebody else. Does that make sense to everybody? I just want one more word on that. This discussion was more about having a non-religious person do something for a religious person, but it's sort of like going into the topic of pikuach nefesh, which is a separate question and quite a complicated question. Maybe we'll use this as a to lead us into the topic of pikuach nefesh in general. Okay, people, I want to summarize. We looked at 3 questions. After our original question about giving people food and Rabbeinu Yonah from
Genova. I hope.
Genova, yeah.
If that's the name.
Yeah, that is. After looking at Rabbeinu Yonah, and then we looked at Rav Ovadia Yosef, and we looked at Rav Weinberg, Rav Yaakov Weinberg, 3DH, about various reasons to allow us to give the food. We looked at 3 situations today. Case number 1 was the case of calling someone up to the Torah who's not Shabbat observant. And we had your beautiful idea, and also your beautiful idea, and we sort of brought them together about calling up somebody who's not religious. Then we spoke about driving. Are you allowed to invite somebody? We made the distinction between I'm allowed to announce an event, but I'm not allowed to invite somebody without providing a contingency plan. That's the second one. And then the third case over here was when a non-religious person offers to take my place in a pikuach nefesh situation, I'm not allowed to switch it because I'm doing what I need to do. That's my role, is to be in the pikuach nefesh situation. I'm imagining it's similar to if I'm in a pikuach nefesh situation, I'm about to get into my car, right? And then my neighbor says, who's not religious, well, let me drive. I'm driving to the mall anyway. Let me drive the guy to the hospital. So I would say, no, I'm allowed to drive now. I'm allowed to drive. I'm going to drive this guy to the hospital. Then I wouldn't need to say, well, you drive into the hospital, because you're going to go in the car anyway. You're going to drive to the mall, then drive into the hospital. No, I'm allowed to drive into the hospital, and therefore I'm going to drive into the hospital. Similar over here. Once I'm allowed to do the shmirah, because that's my slot, either in the army or in a hospital, then it belongs to me. That's going to be my shmirah Shabbat. I can't give it to somebody else. Sweet, wonderful people, it is such a joy to learn with you. I would point out in all of these cases, I hope you can see what the sensitivity of poskim that are really trying to navigate a very, very delicate situation. On the one hand, they would very, very much like as many people as possible to experience the beauty and sweetness that we all enjoy. But on the other hand, we have to avoid isurim such as lifnei iver, not putting a stumbling block in front of the blind, and the very creative ways in which the rabbis navigate that tricky sort of situation in order to arrive at a good solution. Sweet, wonderful people, Yishar Koach. Have a wonderful day.